Um, Ayo. Ayo. What's funny now? Ha ha ha. Nah. Don't scroll. Don't you dare scroll. Because this right here, this ain't a joke anymore. They laughed at you, remember? That weak little smirk, those whispers behind your back. Look at him. Look at her. They'll never make it. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, I remember too. But here's the part they didn't understand. You weren't the joke. You were the setup. And now the punchline is loading, and it's not funny anymore. You see, people love comedy. They love watching someone struggle, fall, embarrass themselves. Because it makes them feel safe. They clap when you fail. They replay your lowest moments like it's their favorite show. But what happens when the clown stops performing? What happens when the one they mocked stops laughing along? That's when the room goes silent. That's when fear walks in. Because you stayed quiet when they expected noise. You stayed patient when they expected rage. You stayed focused while they were busy writing your ending. They really thought they understood you. They thought your silence meant weakness. Your kindness meant softness. Your setbacks meant you were finished. But nah. You were just sharpening something they couldn't see. Every insult, fuel. Every betrayal, blueprint. Every sleepless night, a weapon being forged in the dark. You didn't break, you built. Piece by piece, pain by pain, scar by scar. You built a version of yourself that doesn't need validation, that doesn't fear rejection, that doesn't beg for attention. And now look at you. You don't chase, you attract, you don't react. You calculate, you don't scream, you strike. That's what scares them, because they can't read you anymore. They don't know if you're about to laugh or destroy everything they thought they controlled. Meh. That uncertainty, that's power. Let me tell you something dark, something real. The world only respects transformation, but it mocks the process. They laughed while you were becoming, but now they're watching, and they're not laughing anymore. Because the same person they ignored is now the one they can't replace. The same voice they silenced is now echoing louder than their doubts. The same soul they tried to break is now unbreakable. You see, revenge? Nah. You're not chasing revenge. That's too small for you now. You're chasing evolution. You're chasing dominance over your old self. You're chasing a version of you that walks into a room and doesn't need to prove anything, because your presence alone feels like pressure. And here's the twist. They still think it's a joke. They still think you're playing around. They still think this is temporary. But you know the truth, don't you? This isn't a phase. This is who you became when everything tried to destroy you and failed. So smile. Yeah, smile wide. Let them think it's still comedy. Let them believe you're still the same person they underestimated. Because when the time comes, when everything flips, when the results hit, when your silence turns into impact, they won't be laughing anymore. They'll be confused. How did this happen? When did they change? Why didn't we see it coming? Because they were too busy watching the show to realize you were rewriting the script. You didn't just survive. You adapted. You didn't just endure. You evolved into something dangerous, not loud, not reckless, but controlled, focused, unstoppable. So yeah, let them laugh, let them doubt, let them joke. Because in the end, the loudest laughter belongs to the one who never needed an audience to become a monster. Smile wide, beast. The punchline? It's war. And this time, you laugh last. And here's where it gets colder. Because what you're becoming now, it doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it doesn't hesitate, it observes every move they make, every fake smile, every hidden intention. You see it all now, not because you changed overnight, but because pain trained your eyes to stop trusting appearances. There was a time you needed approval, a time you needed someone to say, "You're enough." But that version of you, it didn't survive the fire. Now, you don't ask if you're enough. You decide it. You don't wait for doors to open. You become the reason doors exist. They thought pressure would crush you. But pressure didn't crush you. It carved you. It shaped your mindset into something sharp, something precise, something that doesn't miss twice. Every mistake you made, you studied it. Every time you fell, you remembered exactly where the ground hit you. So now when you move with intention. That's why your silence feels heavy now. It's not empty. It's loaded with discipline, loaded with focus, loaded with a version of you that no longer tolerates distractions. You stopped explaining yourself. That's when everything shifted, because explanations are for people who doubt their own path. And you don't doubt anymore. You've seen what happens when you trust the process, when you endure longer than everyone else, when you stay locked in while others fold. They folded. They chose comfort. They chose excuses. They chose the easy laugh instead of the hard truth. And you chose pain, not because you loved it, but because you understood it. You understood that pain is a teacher. And most people drop out too early. Now look at the difference. They're still where they were, still talking, still doubting, still watching. And you're building something they can't even comprehend yet. This is where it becomes dangerous, because you're no longer reacting to life. You're directing it. You're no longer emotional about setbacks. You analyze them. You no longer chase people. You outgrow them. And that distance, that gap between you and them, it's not luck. It's discipline, stacking up quietly, day after day, decision after decision. You became addicted to growth. While they were distracted, you were evolving. While they were laughing, you were learning. While they were sleeping on you, you were building something that doesn't sleep. Now they feel it. They can't explain it, but they feel it. That shift in your energy, that calm intensity, that presence that doesn't need noise to be noticed. You don't need to prove anything anymore, because results speak in a language that excuses can't translate. And here's the truth they're afraid to admit. They underestimated you, not just a little, completely. They thought your story ended where it hurt the most, but that's exactly where it started. So now, you don't rush, you don't panic, you don't break under pressure, because you've already survived worse than anything standing in front of you now. Let them keep watching. Let them try to figure you out. Let them wonder how you became this version of yourself. They'll never fully understand it, because they didn't walk through the darkness that built you. You did, alone, in silence, with no applause, no support, no guarantees. And that's why what you've built, it can't be taken. It can't be copied. It can't be broken, because it wasn't given to you. It was earned through every moment they thought you were finished. So keep that smile, not for them, for you, because you know something they don't. This isn't the end of the story. This is just the moment where everything starts turning in your favor. And by the time they realize it, it'll already be too late. And now it gets even darker, because the version of you standing here, this one doesn't flinch anymore. Not at opinions, not at rejection, not even at loss. You've already lost enough to understand one brutal truth. Nothing external was ever meant to save you. They thought you needed them, that without their approval, their presence, their support, you would collapse. But what they didn't realize, you were learning how to stand alone while they were busy leaning on everything temporary. That's why when things started falling apart, you didn't panic. You adapted, because chaos isn't new to you. You've lived in it. You've breathed in it. You've built your mindset inside it. Now when pressure hits, it doesn't shake you. It activates you. It sharpens your focus. It locks your vision. It reminds you exactly who you had to become just to survive this far. And that's the part they can't copy. They can imitate your style, your words, your moves, but they can't replicate your scars. They can't recreate the nights where you questioned everything and still chose to keep going. You see, that's where your real power lives, not in what you show, but in what you've endured. Because endurance builds something deeper than confidence. It builds certainty. And a person with certainty, that's dangerous, because you're no longer guessing, you're no longer hoping. You know what you're capable of. You know what you can survive. You know how far you're willing to go. That's why you move different now. You don't rush success. You construct it. You don't chase validation. You outgrow the need for it. You don't fear competition. You become something they can't compete with. And slowly, quietly, everything starts shifting. Opportunities begin to appear. Doors start opening. People who once ignored you start paying attention. But here's the twist. You don't care the same way anymore. Because you remember. You remember who wasn't there when it was hard. You remember who doubted you when it mattered. You remember who laughed when you were struggling. So now, you don't hate them, you just outgrow them. Silently, completely. This is what evolution looks like. Not loud, not emotional, not desperate, just consistent, relentless, unstoppable progress. And the more you grow, the more isolated it feels, because fewer people understand you. Fewer people match your mindset. Fewer people can keep up with your pace. But that's the price. The price of becoming rare. The price of becoming focused. The price of becoming someone who refuses to settle for average when they've already seen their own potential. So don't confuse loneliness with failure. It's not that you're losing people. You're losing what no longer aligns with who you're becoming. And deep down, you know this path was never meant to be crowded. It was meant to test you, to break weaker versions of you, to strip away everything fake until only the real remains. And what remains now is something they can't control, something they can't manipulate, something they can't stop. You became disciplined when it was boring. You stayed consistent when it was hard. You kept going when it made no sense. And that's why you're different now. Not because you're lucky, but because you refused to quit when quitting would have been easier. So let them keep talking. Let them keep doubting. Let them keep underestimating you. Because every time they do, they remind you exactly why you can't go back to who you used to be. You've come too far to return to comfort, too far to shrink yourself again, too far to play small just to make others comfortable. Now it's simple. You either grow or you betray everything you fought to become, and you're not going back. Not this time. Not after everything it took to build this version of you. So stay locked in, stay focused, stay dangerous in silence, because what's coming next, it's not luck, it's not chance. It's the result of everything you refused to give up on. And when it finally hits, when everything aligns, when the results become undeniable, they won't recognize you anymore. And that's exactly the point. And this is where the transformation becomes irreversible. Because now you don't just think different. You operate different. You breathe different. You exist on a frequency they can't even tune into anymore. At first, it felt strange, didn't it? Outgrowing conversations, outgrowing habits, outgrowing people you once thought you couldn't live without. But that discomfort, that was growth ripping you away from everything that was holding you small. You started noticing things, the fake energy, the forced support, the hidden envy behind quiet smiles. And instead of reacting, you adjusted, you stepped back, you moved smarter. You stopped giving access to people who only showed up when it was convenient. Because access to you now, that's earned. You're no longer the person who explains their vision to people who can't even see their own. You're no longer shrinking your ambition just to make others feel comfortable. You're no longer delaying your evolution just to keep old connections alive. No, that version of you is gone. Now you protect your energy like it's everything, because it is. You realized something most people never understand. Your environment either builds you or breaks you, and you got tired of being broken, so you rebuilt everything: your mindset, your habits, your standards, your circle. And yeah, it cost you people, but it gave you yourself back. That's a trade most people are too afraid to make. Now look at how you move. Calculated, not emotional, not impulsive. Every step has purpose. Every decision has weight. You don't waste time trying to convince people anymore. If they don't see it, they don't see it. And that's fine. Because you're not here to be understood. You're here to become unstoppable. And unstoppable doesn't mean loud. It doesn't mean reckless. It means disciplined when nobody's watching. It means consistent when nobody's clapping. It means focused when everything is trying to distract you. That's who you became. You turned pain into precision. You turned silence into strategy. You turned isolation into power. And now you're stepping into a phase where everything starts responding to you differently. People feel your presence before you even speak. They sense that you're not the same. They notice that you don't react the way you used to. Because you don't. You've mastered something rare. Control. Control over your emotions. Control over your time. Control over your direction. And once you have that, nobody can play with you anymore. That's why the same situations that used to break you don't even shake you now. You've already been through worse. You've already faced nights where giving up felt easier than continuing. And you still chose to continue. That decision, that's where your power was born. Not in the wins, not in the recognition, but in the moments nobody saw, where you could have stopped and didn't. That's why you don't fear the future anymore. Because you trust yourself. Not the outcome, not luck, not other people. You trust you. And that's a different kind of confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that doesn't disappear under pressure. The kind that doesn't break when things go wrong. That kind of confidence. It's built in darkness. And you earned every piece of it. So now when you move with quiet certainty. You don't announce your plans. You don't reveal your next step. You don't look for approval. You execute Day by day, step by step, with no distractions, with no excuses, with no need to prove anything to anyone, because deep down, you already proved it to yourself. And that's the only proof that ever mattered. So let the world keep guessing. Let them try to figure out your next move. Let them underestimate you one more time. Because by the time they realize what you've become, you'll already be too far ahead to reach. This isn't luck. This isn't chance. This is what happens when someone refuses to stay broken. This is what happens when someone turns pain into power, silence into dominance, and doubt into fuel. This is you, and there's no going back from this version of you, ever.